So as I say every week, it is a privilege and a schus to be together with all of you and to be oisik in the most important and fundamental halachas in the life of every Jew. Am zo yutzarti li tihilosi yisaperu. The Novi Yeshayahu says, Amzu yutzarti li tihilosi yisaperu. Kodesh Baruch Hu created us for one purpose, tihilosi yisaperu. And like the Ramban writes in the end of Parshas Boy, Tachlis HaYetzira HaRishayna, Sheyeda ha'odam v'yoyda le'eloikov shebaroi. I've come to this world just to thank you, Kodesh Baruch Hu. Thank you, Kodesh Baruch Hu, for creating us and for giving us life. Tihilosi yisaperu. So we started off with Hilchas Tefillah and Hilchas Kriya Shema and Birchas HaMazon and Birchas HaNehenin and Birchas HaTorah, and finally we're up to Birchas HaMitzvos. Kol HaMitzvos mevorech aleim oiv la'asiyosam. And last week in our previous year, I think, we discussed the Gemara in Birchas Tezvav, Broche d'Rabbanan v'lav bebroche talye milsa. So brochas are not ma'akev. And last week we had a fascinating discussion about Birchas HaTorah. Birchas HaTorah, bearing in mind that it is midioraisa, is it ma'akev? But today we're speaking about Birchas HaMitzvah. The Gemara says in Birchas Tezvav, Birchas HaMitzvos mid'Rabbanan. Is that agreed upon by everyone, or are there opinions that Birchas HaMitzvah would be min HaTorah? In Parshas Kisavoy, in the midst of Biur Maisvus. So when a person is Mavaya Trumas HaMaisus Metoch Beisa, he says Vidu Maisvus. And the Posik says Kisa Chalala Asar es Kol Masat Voscha B'Shon HaShlishis Shnasa Masar Venotato Legeo LeLevi LeYosoim VeLalmono Va'ochlu B'Shorecho V'Soveyu ואומרת לפני השם אלוקיך וביארתי הקודש מן הבייס, וגם נסעתם ללוי, להגיע ליוסף ולאלמונה, ככל מצוותיך אשר ציוויתני, לא עברתי ממצוותיך, ולא שוכחתי. I did not forget. And Rashi, על התורה פרשת כסובי, ולא שוכחתי מלבורכך על הפרשת התרומס והמעשרות. The source of this Rashi is in Safri. I do not recall whether whoever spoke about this, but the Safri and the Safro are Bryces, and they have the same significance as the Tosefta, maybe even greater. So the Safri's Pshat, V'lo shochachti, I didn't forget to say a brocha. So that seems to be that brochas are min HaTorah. If brochas are mid'Rabbanan, why would Pshat in Vidu Maises V'lo shochachti melevorechacho? That is one possible source. So would we say that the Gemara in Birchas Tezvav goes against the Safriyas? Not likely, because some of the Gemara is Divrei Ameroim, and Ameroim don't go against Mishnah or Tosefta. Ameroim wouldn't go against the Safri. Another source that Birchas HaMitzvah might be min HaTorah, I think I quoted it last week, the Yerushalmi and Birchas Daf Mem Aleph. Mem Aleph Amud Beis Yerushalmi and Birchas. Ve'etnu lachu lochoiso oven HaTorah v'mitzvah iskish mitzvah HaTorah kishem shemavochen al HaTorah kach mavochen al HaMitzvah. But last week when I quoted the Yerushalmi, I also said that the Pri Megadim in his Psicha L'Hilchas Brochas maintains that the Yerushalmi is only in a smach that's not miduraisa. Source number 3, and that's a posik not in Toras Moshe, but in Sefer Shmuel, Divrei Neviim, Shmuel Aleph, Perik Tes, posik Yud Gimel. Kevoyachem minhu iyor, kein timtzun oisoi, beterem yala habamos olechol, ki lo yoichel ho om ad boi oi, ki hu yevorech hazevach, achrei cheim yoichlu hakruim. So all the people that were invited to the Suda, waited for Shmuel Hanavi. Nobody started to eat before he arrived. Ki hu yavorech hazevach achrei chayim yochlu hakuyim. And this pasuk is quoted in Birchas Mem Chesem and Beis. And Rashi's interpretation, Rashi's pshat is, ללמד חושתו ברוכה לפני אכילה, על הזבח הוא עם הרש"י קדושנו במסויס וציוונו, לאכול הזבח. So, lulei divrei Rashi, if not for Rashi, we would say, we're talking about Birchas HaNehenin. But Birchas HaNehenin is also midrabanan, and that's a pasuk in Divrei Nevi'im. Rashi's pshat is, no, we're speaking about Birchas HaMitzvah, shekidushono b'mitzoyse v'tzivona lechol hazebach. So we find three different sources in which Chazal base Birchas HaMitzvah on psukim. Maybe the most important source is number one that I quoted before, and that's a Sifri, Rashi al HaTorah and Parshas Kesavai. Lo shochachti melavorecha kol haforshas sumas amaisis. Source number two, Yerushalmi. HaTorah v'HaMitzvah, kishem shemavorach HaTorah, kach mavorach HaMitzvah. Source number three, Birchas Mem Ches. Pshat in the pasuk and Sefer Shmuel, ki hu yavorech hazevach v'achrei chein yochlu hakuyim. But all the poskim, based on the Gemara Birchas Tesvav, maintain Birchas HaMitzvah are midarabanan. So all three sources are asmachta ba'alma. And I come back once again to what I said many times in the past few weeks. I can't remember how many times, but I said this many times. The only bracha that is minatorah l'kuli alma is Birchas HaMazon. Birchas HaTorah, according to most Rishonim, is minatorah, and that is the shit of the Bis Yosef and Mem Zayin. All the other brachas are midarabanan. So Birchas HaMitzvah Stoma de Gemara Birchas Tesvav is midarabanan and not minatorah. What do we do with three different sources? Asmachta ba'alma, not minatorah. But I have a very fundamental question. And this question would be more reasonable if it would be minatorah, but it's also shayach, even though it's midarabanan. How do we define the essence of Birchas HaMitzvah? Is Birchas HaMitzvah considered as an integral part of the mitzvah? Or is it milta achrita? Just like Birchas HaNehenin is not part of eating. Before you partake of food or drinks, you have a mitzvah to say a bracha, to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Achila l'chud, bracha l'chud. Would the same apply to Birchas HaMitzvah? Before you perform a mitzvah, before you mekayim a mitzvah, you need to say a bracha. Mitzvah l'chud v'bracha l'chud. Or maybe Birchas HaMitzvah is different than Birchas HaNehenin. Birchas HaMitzvah might be defined as part of the mitzvah. Just like we find in many mitzvahs, the mitzvah d'oraisa and mitzvah d'rabanan. I'm not talking about the mitzvahs that are essentially midrabanan. I'm talking about Birchas HaMazon. Birchas HaMazon in Torah, and we spoke about this just a few weeks ago. According to the Rambam, Birchas HaMazon in Torah doesn't have a formula, doesn't have a nusach, doesn't need to be three brachas. The Rambam writes, same applies to tefillah. The Rambam maintains that tefillah is d'oraisa. But the nusach at tefillah definitely is midrabanan, and it's very clear in the Rambam Perek Aleph Melchus Tefillah. We discussed it a few weeks ago. So one might argue, just like Chachamim were metaken nusach at tefillah, Chachamim were metaken that the oifen kiyum mitzvahs is al yedei bracha. So the way to perform a mitzvah is saying a bracha, and the bracha becomes as if part of the mitzvah. So not only by mitzvahs shebedibur do we find that the basic mitzvah is only the nucleus, and the formula, the nusach, is midrabanan. Even by mitzvahs shel ma'aseh, we find various halachas that are only midarabonon. Let's take, for example, mitzvahs matzah. Achilas kazayis matzah is min haTorah. Hesebo is midarabonon. And that's a din ba'ofen kiyum mitzvahs matzah. You need to eat matzah behesebo. So even in mitzvahs shebamaisa, some of the protem, some of the details are midarabonon. So once again, there might be room to understand that the relationship between the mitzvah and Birchas and mitzvah is not the same as achila and Birchas and Nahanan, because achila is not avodas ukeil. So it goes without saying, brocha lachud v'achila lachud. You need to thank a Kodesh Baruch. You need to bench a Kodesh Baruch when you come to partake of His world. But when we say a brocha on a mitzvah, maybe it is not milta achrita. Maybe the brocha is part, it becomes part of the mitzvah. This is the way to perform a mitzvah. And the etzem mitzvah starts with the brocha. And the brocha would be part of the mitzvah. Would there be an afkamina? Even if there wouldn't be an afkamina, it would be an interesting chakir, and we would try to prove the essence of Birchas mitzvah. But there might be an afkamina lahaloch. So in Minchas Osho, Chumash Devorim, and in various different sources in my Sforim, so Baruch Hashem, I've written so many Sforim, B'chaste HaKodesh Baruch Hu, and I hope there are many more to come. The next Sefer might be Minchas Osho on Corona. Up to this moment, I wrote about 300 pages in the last 3 months, and it's a Moisa V'Oilach Baruch Hashem. It's not that I didn't deal with other studies in this period, but just the many shilas and the many shmus and the Shiurim I gave. So, in my Sforim, primarily in Minchas Osho and Chumash Devorim, I brought an interesting chakir, an interesting question. Could one say Birchas HaMitzvah lifnei zman HaMitzvah or not? So let's take Lulav for an example. Mitzvahs Lulav, like all the mitzvahs Hanoi Hagois B'yoyim V'loi B'laylo, Tchilas HaMitzvahs Alois HaShachar, Midarabonon, Neitz HaChamo. So if a person has such tremendous eslaivus to be Mekayim the mitzvah in the very first possible moment, and he said, Asher kedeshonu b'mitzvoisa v'tzivonu anatilas lulav lifnei alois hashachar. So in days of yore, it was impossible to know exactly when is alois hashachar. You looked at the horizon. It's easier to define the nates when you actually see the sun than the rays of the sun, alois hashachar. But today, there are 1,000 sites and 1,000 luchos, and you know exactly when the alois is. So he said the brocha lifnei alois hashachar, and the moment of alois hashachar, it was noitel lulav. Is it a brocha levatolo or no problem? He made no hefsek. He made no hefsek. Is that a valid brocha? Do you need to say the brocha bisman hara'ui lekiyum mitzvah or not? So if we say brocha lechud v'mitzvah lechud, what's the problem? What's the problem? The zman is a zman in kiyum mitzvah, not on the brocha. The brocha has 2 halachas. If you make a hefsek, it's a brocha levatona. And lechatchila, you need to say the brocha oivel asiyasa. Oivel asiyasa means as close to the mitzvah as possible. Before the mitzvah, oiver velo oiver de oiver. So this person said the brocha oiver lasiyasa. Asher kedushono b'mitzvoisa v'tzivon anatilas lulav, a split second before the alois. And with the alois, he is noitel lulav. The same question would be relevant by Mrs. Anoyeges Balayla. An example would be matzah. So he's anxious to eat matzah, the moment of Tzeis HaKerchovim. And he said, Asher kadeshonu b'mitzvoisa v'tzivon arachilas matzah lifnei Tzeis HaKerchovim. The moment of Tzeis, ochal kezayis matzah. Is it a brocha levatolo or not? 2 achronim deal directly with this question. Bekuri Yankov and Gilyon Maharsha. They were contemporaries. Reb Shlomo Eger, the great son of Reb Akiva Eger, and Reb Yankov Ettlinger, the Oroch Ulaner. Bekuri Yankov Tov Reish Lametes deals with mitzvah sukkah. So a person said the bracha, Lefnei Seis HaKerchav. No, I actually think he deals with lulav. He said the bracha Lefnei Alois HaShachar, but it's the same question, as I said before. Lefnei Seis HaKerchav regarding mitzvahs hanoegis b'layla, Lefnei Alois HaShachar regarding mitzvahs hanoegis b'yayim. And the Bekuri Yankov says it would be a bracha levatola. How could he say vitzivonu if it's not as manara u'il mitzvah? Gilyon Maharsha Yoredei Achov Chesif Yutes, dealing with the bracha of Kisui Adam. So Reb Shlomo Eger says, if he said the bracha of Kisui Adam before the Shchita, it's a bracha levatola. Why? Because before the Shchita there is no mitzvah of Kisui Adam. How could he say Vitzivonu? Are these two halachas one and the same, or is there room to be machalik b'neihem? Of course, there's room to be machalik in both directions. One could argue, Birchas hakisui lefnei hashchita gora tfei. It's worse. And even if we say Birchas halulav lefnei alois, Birchas hamatzah v'hasukah lefnei tzeisek echavim is not a bracha levatola. Maybe Birchas hakisui lefnei hashchita is a bracha levatola because it's mechusar ma'isa. And in various different sugyas in Shas, we do differentiate between mechusar zman and mechusar ma'isa. So before the alois, so before it says sekechovim, it's only mechusar zman. But saying Birchas hakisui lefnei shchita is mechusar ma'isa. Why would there be a difference between mechusar zman and mechusar ma'isa? This differentiation is primarily in Seder Kochim. We're not going to go into many details, but it is very easy to understand the difference. Mechusar zman is memela ka'osi. You know, there is no deed or act that is required to bring the chiyuv. It's just a matter of time. But mechusar ma'isa, well, maybe you wouldn't shech at all. And therefore, one could argue regarding for the alois, before it says it would not be defined as a bracha levatorah, but saying Birchas hakisui lefnei hashchita would be a bracha levatorah. But one could argue to the contrary. Even before the shchita, it says man hara'ui lekisui adam. So that's just a technicality. Did you shech or you didn't shech? But the zman is a zman hara'ui lekisui adam. You can't say while it's night, because by night there is no mitzvah of lulav. You can't say while it's day, because before Sukkot there is no mitzvah. Mitzvah's kisui adam is noyeg in this time frame. It's just a technicality that you didn't check. But at the end of the day, these two gedolim have a similar argument. Not the same, but definitely similar. And the argumentation is the same. And both say, he cannot say vitzivonu before there's a mitzvah. Va'ani lekesha'atzmi never really understood it. And why not? And why not? Yes, he's a godel, a ben Yisrael, and he's a bar chiyuv. Why can't he say Ashikadishonu b'mitzvos vitzivonu al achilas matzah leisha b'sukkah netilas lulav, even though it'll take another 5 seconds till, I mean, he's mechuyev. He's mechuyev in matzah b'voy hazman. He's mechuyev in lulav b'voy hazman. He's mechuyev in kisui adam b'voy hazman. And why not? As long as there's no hefsek and it's oivel asiyosan, why not? And that is a sif in Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Shofet, Tov Kuf Pei Ches Sif Aleph. There's a machlokes mechaber in the Ramah. If a person started a tekiah lefnei alois shachar, and he blew a very long tekiah, and there was enough in the part of the tekiah liyach alois shachar, he blew a shir tekiah, whether it's yoitz or not. And the essence of this machlokes is whether a tekiah needs to have a tchila v'soif. The fact that tchilas tekiah was lefnei alois shachar, is that a problem? There was a shir tekiah liyachar alois shachar. That's a machlokes the Mechaber and the Ramah. And why don't they comment, neither Mechaber nor the Ramah nor the Neisa Kailim? How about the bracha? How about the bracha? Well, you need to say a bracha over asiyosam. So, even those opinions that say you're yoitze, but it definitely is not a lechatchila because you can't say a bracha, and the bracha would be a bracha levatala. It's not only that you're missing out the bracha, it's an aveira chamur of a bracha levatala. So one could still argue, well, the machlokes, the Mechaber, and the Ramah really isn't lechatchila. The question is only if it's yoitze b'diavad. But derech hapoiskim, I think someone, the Beis Yosef, the Bach, the Prish, the Mogen Avram, the Taz, the great Achronim that are mefarish the details in every halacha, someone should say, Rabbi say, this shaila is only a lechatchila. It's only a b'diavad. But lechatchila, you have a major problem. You can't say a bracha, and if you said the bracha levatala, either you're going to be losing out a bracha, which is a bittul mitzvah derabbanan, you're going to say a bracha levatala. So what I would learn from this halacha, no, as long as there's no hefsek, and it's oivel asiyosam, then you don't have a problem with vitzivanu. So many times in my shiurim, I have this uncomfortable feeling. It's not that I feel so uncomfortable, but some of the people, some of my precious talmidim feel uncomfortable when I bring great achronim, and the Bakuri Yankov and Shloimeh were great achronim, and I sometimes express a different opinion, and I bring the rayas sheloki devreim, and kachi da'aka shel Torah. Kachi da'aka shel Torah. It's not, I have no problem with it, but I know sometimes people, we have such reverence and such gewaldige yiras hakavod from Rabbi Seinu Achronim, and people feel uncomfortable. It's not that I don't have that very same yiras hakavod and his patlas, but kachi da'aka shel Torah. So I always feel more comfortable when I bring the rayas from divrei Achronim. So, Derech Pikudecha, Mitzvah Vav. Derech Pikudecha is a fascinating sefer. The Bnei Yesod was the din of a Rav, the din of a Rebbe, one of the great Hasidic masters, and a founder of a Hasidic dynasty, din of. But the Bnei Yesod was Lekuli Alma, a phenomenal goy, and he wrote Sfarim b'kol Mitzvos HaTorah, in Halacha, in Drush, in Chasidus. He was a great Mekubal, one of the giants of his generation. And Derech Pikudecha is a fascinating sefer. We only have a very small part of it. The sefer should have been, and I don't know whether this phenomenal Goen finished his work. We just didn't have the Shia that was ever printed, or he embarked on this journey and didn't have the Shia to finish it. But Derech Pikudecha was on Seder HaMitzvos, explaining the Chelek Machshava Dibur Maisa of every mitzvah. So we know from the Gedolah Kabbalah that every mitzvah has three parts, Machshava Dibur and Maisa. And the Derech Pikudecha comes to explain what are the Chelkei Machshava Dibur Maisa in each and every mitzvah. So this is just a short introduction. Many times when I quote Sforim, I like to give some background. I think it enhances Chibus HaTorah. So on Derech Pikudecha Mitzvah Vav, he writes that if a person started to eat Korban Pesach Lifnei Hazman, the brocha is a brocha levatola. And why is that? Because the Achilas HaKorban Lifnei Hazman, which is an Isser, is a hefsek between the brocha and the mitzvah. So what we learn from the Derech Pikudecha, his problem is only the hefsek. If he would say the brocha, Lifnei Hazman, and he wouldn't eat, and his entire eating would be Achilas Shel Mitzvah, he would have no problem. So the Derech Pikudecha says, But if he's eating Korban Pesach Lifnei Hazman, and that eating is an Aveira, Ein Pesach Nechalel B'Zmanoi, and therefore, it's not only the problem he has of eating Korban Pesach without a mitzvah, the brocha is also brocha Lavatorah because that's a hefsek. Ki yoitze b'dovo motzinu b'ponim yofos. Who was the ponim yofos? Ponim yofos wrote two magnificent forms, Ksubis and Kedushin, Sefer HaFlo and Sefer HaMakne. He was a Talmud of the Mizlich and Magid. A phenomenal going. And you want to know how phenomenal? The Noide B'Yehuda writes Tzlach. And the Noide B'Yehuda writes, I started writing a Sefer on Ksubis, but then I saw the Sefer HaFlo, and I have nothing to add on. And my Sefer is useless. It's no longer needed because whatever I have to say, that flow said before me. So that just proves what a phenomenal Sefer, what a phenomenal Goan this was. So the Ponim Yofis in Parshas Yesod has similar but a different approach. So the Ponim Yofis says, if a person said the brocha al kisvi adam lefnei shchita, it's a brocha Lavatorah. Why? Because the shchita is a hefsek between the brocha and the mitzvah. So once again, he doesn't feel it's a problem because he can't say vitzivonu. He doesn't feel it's a problem because he's not mechuyev. The problem, according to the Ponim Yofis, is only that the shchita would be a hefsek between Birchas HaKisui and the mitzvah of Kisui. So keneged the Bekuri Yankev and the Gilin Marsha, there are two other great achronim that feel it's only a problem of hefsek, but vitzivonu would not be a problem. And I feel, ibedi d'Italia, I think that's more reasonable. Especially that we have the raya from Ki Yeshoifa Tov Kuf Peiches Sif Aleph. Maybe the most important source would be the Mogen Avraham Shin Lametes Sif Koten Ches, because the Mogen Avraham quotes the Tumas Hadeshen. And the Tumas Hadeshen deals with Pidyon Haben Shemagia Zmanoi B'Shabbos Kodesh. So Pidyon Haben falls on Shabbos. When do you do the Pidyon? The Tumas Hadeshen says it's Nidche to Sunday. And why would it be Nidche to Sunday? Because you can't do the Pidyon before Shabbos. How could he say Vitzivonu? So even though theoretically you could give the Kohen money and the Pidyon should be Chal on Shabbos, but when would you say the Brocha? You can't say Vitzivonu because before day 31, there is no mitzvah of Pidyon Haben. One would argue, maybe the problem is not Vitzivonu, but the problem is Maisa Mitzvah. You can't say the Brocha only when you do Maisa HaMitzvah. So giving money to the Kohen of Shabbos is not a Maisa Mitzvah, and the mitzvah will be Chal on Shabbos. There is no Maisa. But the Lashon of the Tumas Hadeshen quoted in Mogen Avraham is, you can't say Vitzivonu before Shabbos. And I heard that would support the Shloimeh and the Bekuri Yankev. How about the Ponim Yofis and Derech Pikudecha? Chuvas Hara'anach, Simin Tzadik Tes says, you can't do Pidyon Haben before day 31 because if the child will die, he'll be a Brocha Lavatorah. Chas v'sholom. And that's why you need to wait till this man. Shem Yom Saben, and it will be a Brocha Lavatorah. So the Ranach would be a raya to the Derech Pikudecha and the Ponim Yofis. So only a Brocha Lavatorah if the child Chas v'sholom will perish and pass away. Otherwise, wouldn't be a Brocha Lavatorah at all. So Lecha'ira, these two opinions depend how do we define the essence of Birchas HaMitzvah. If Birchas HaMitzvah is a virtue into itself, like Birchas HaNehenen, Mitzvah L'chud and Brocha L'chud, I think it's more reasonable, there should be no problem. I don't see the problem in Vitzivonu, especially according to most of the Rishonim, that's the shit of the Ramo, maybe not most of the Rishonim, but many of the Rishonim, that even women that are exempt from mitzvah seishas man groma could say v'tzivonu. We don't have a tzivur, but men have a tzivur. I'm not mitzvah right now, but basically I have the mitzvah. But I think if we define Birchas HaMitzvah as being an integral part of the mitzvah, Oifen kiyum ha-mitzvah midrabbanon is lavorech v'lakayim ha-mitzvah, then it would be very reasonable to assume if this mitzvah has a zman, that zman will include the bracha, because the bracha is as if a part of the mitzvah. So I think maybe it depends on two different explanations. Why do we say Birchas HaMitzvah oiva la'asiyasa? And that's a fascinating read from Sochem Dav Zayin on the base. Whenever I quote this ritva, I say if we would read the text of the ritva and cover the top of the page, we might guess that we're learning more B'Shomesh or Be'emayim Chaim or another Hasidic sefer. So the ritva asks in Sochem Zayin on the base. It's a few times in Shas and Bavli and Yerushalmi that Chazal teaches the halacha. Kol ha-mitzvos mavorach aleim oiva la'asiyoson. The bracha comes before the mitzvah, but nowhere in Shas do Chazal explain. And why is that? Why does the bracha come before the mitzvah? The ritva brings two different explanations. Number one, kedei sheyeskadesh techilo v'yegale v'yohidia she'oises ha-mitzvah l'shem shomayim. So the Birchas HaMitzvah is here that a person should clearly state and define that he is machaven to do this mitzvah l'shem shomayim. Number two, ki ha-brocha hu avodas ha-nefesh ubedinu lahagdem avodas ha-nefesh hu lemalo ma'avodas ha-guf. Fascinating. So the Ritva says the actual performance of the mitzvah is avodas ha-guf. It is something we're doing with your hands, with your organs, with your body. But the brocha is a manifestation and an expression of avodas ha-nefesh. Ubedinu lahagdem avodas ha-nefesh hu lemalo ma'avodas ha-guf. When in some Hasidic forum, especially Sosemis, in various different sources, the Sosemis says that a chona mitzvah is maybe even more important in certain ways than the actual mitzvah. The Ritva says, "Bedinu lahagdem abrocha shu avodas ha-nefesh," because that's lamala ma'avodas ha-guf. So I think according to the first approach of the Ritva, oiva la'asiyoson is legalois ve'lohudia she'oises ha-mitzvah l'shem mitzvah. Then mitzvah l'chud and brocha l'chud. The brocha just comes to declare and define and make it clear that our kavona is to perform a mitzvah l'shem shomayim. But if the interaction between the brocha and the mitzvah is to combine avodas ha-nefesh and avodas ha-guf, I think then it would be more reasonable to assume that the brocha is a chelek of guf ha-mitzvah. So these two different explanations of the Ritva might be the most fundamental source to the Chekina we just discussed today. I need to apologize. My shiur today is somewhat shorter than my previous Shiurim for a very silly reason. I just noticed that I don't have battery, and probably in a few minutes my computer will be off, and I cannot connect here where I'm sitting. My table is far from an outlet. So I very much apologize. But I do think that we said some very Yesodistic divrei Torah today, dealing with Birchas HaMitzvah. So after we spoke about Birchas HaMozen and Birchas HaTorah and Birchas HaNehenin and many other forms of Birchas, Birchas HaMitzvah are one of the most fundamental chalukim of Avodas Elokim. And as I explained today, there would be two different approaches and two different hagadoros on Birchas HaMitzvah. Similar to Birchas HaNahanan. Ano alachud v'brocha alachud. And the concept of Birchas HaNahanan is just, the concept of Birchas HaNahanan is thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu before you're nana from the world. Might be the same regarding Birchas HaMitzvah. Singing the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us mitzvahs. But it might go beyond that, especially according to the Ritva. Birchas HaMitzvah and Kiyum HaMitzvah is the combination of Avodas HaNefesh and Avodas HaGuf. And these two must come together. And the nafkamina would be, could a person say Birchas HaMitzvah before this man hara'ui le'mitzvah? I think that would be the nafkamina, and I brought kamo v'kama mekoides, various different sources, from the Rishonim and from the Achronim, lekan ulekan. So once again, it's a big schus and a big pleasure. And I apologize.
Before the Rav goes, could I be matrich you while your battery is still on? Because we got several questions on this. Could the Rav comment on what he brings in the Sefer from the Commander Rebbe and others, that there is a Birchas HaMitzvos on mitzvahs ben al chaverai, and the possible sources of this in the Rishonim? I know that the battery may go out, but as long as we have the schus of listening to the Rav, every moment is precious to us.
Yeah, let's take advantage of every second. Yes, I think I made it clear on my Sefer that it's a gewaldige chiddush that goes against the Rishonim. First of all, it goes against the Rambam. And in the Rambam and in many other Rishonim, it is very clear that there is no Birchas HaMitzvah and mitzvah sheben odom l'chaveiroi. Birchas HaMitzvah is only those mitzvahs that are the essence of avodas u'kel, only ben odom l'mokim and not ben odom l'chaveiroi. So if you're familiar with the Kamarna, it's a long story, but the Shulchan HaTorah goes against the Shulchan Aruch. It goes against all the Rishonim. The Kamarna is based 100% on Kabbalah. It's very difficult to relate to the Kamarna even as a posek. He was a malach, he was an unbelievable tzaddik, and he definitely was a goen, but he goes against all the posek. So it's difficult to say that that is really even a shitta in halacha. But it's a fascinating source, and that's why I dealt with it in my sefer. Anything else, Shlomo?
Yeah, I mean, I am just, as I said, I understand the technical problem that the Rav has, but we are trying to see if we can, any maramakim that you'd like to finish. As I said, the Ilam is now briefed that it may be the Sarha battery may truncate us early, but I'd like to be nana as much as possible. So whatever.
Yeah. So as I realized in the middle of this year, right now I have 2%. So as I realized that I won't have enough battery, so I just started to push in as much as I can. And we did mention most of the fundamental sources. I did make a comment in the middle of this year that there is no Birchas HaMitzvah only on a Ma'aseh mitzvah. And maybe that would be the reason we can't say the Brocham Pidyon Ben Erev Shabbos, because the Chalois HaMitzvah will be Shabbos. That's a fascinating machlokes between the Beki and the Mogen Avraham and Yutes regarding mezuzah. So Mogen Avraham paskins that if a person puts on a mezuzah in a new home before he actually lives in the house, he can't say the bracha when he puts on the mezuzah, because mezuzah choyves hadar, and as long as he isn't living in the house, he doesn't have a bracha, a mitzvah. So how can he say a bracha? So the Mogen Avraham says, if you put on a mezuzah in your house, before you actually live in the house, you put on the mezuzah without a bracha. And then when you move in, you say, Asher kedishanu b'mitzvos v'tzivanu lodur b'bayis sheyesh bo mezuzah. So let me ask you, my friends, did you ever hear a person in his proper senses saying a bracha? Lodur b'bayis sheyesh bo mezuzah. Never. So the Beki Veg in Chuvas Beki Veg says, according to the Mogen Avraham, if you go for a vacation, or you left your house for a Shabbos, When you come back to the house, when you were away, you didn't have the mitzvah of mezuzah. Because once again, mezuzah choyves adar. You're only machayim mezuzah when you're in the house. So when you come back home after a brief vacation, you need to say a brocha asher kedushono b'mitzvos v'tzivonu lodur b'bayis yesh bo mezuzah. So these are piskei halacha that are unheard of. And usually, we paskin in accordance to the Magen Avraham, especially Ashkenazim. Ashkenazim always follow the Magen Avraham. So after Chasimas Yad Kodshoy, Rabbi Kiva Ege, Chuvas Rabbi Kiva Ege Simentes, that's fascinating. He writes, Shuv mitzosi beberke Yosef, that you never say Birchas HaMitzvah only on a Maisa mitzvah. And therefore, there is no such a bracha, lodur bebayis yesh bo mezuzah. You could only say the bracha when you're korbeya mezuzah because that's a Maisa mitzvah. Coming to sleep in your house is not a Maisa mitzvah. It's true. Without living in the house, you don't have the mitzvah. But coming into your house is not defined as a Maisa mitzvah, and therefore, you cannot say that bracha. So this is a very uncommon phenomena that we do not paskin in accordance to the Magen Avraham. And the fundamental question is there ever a Birchas mitzvah and a mitzvah that we're makayim without a Maisa? And there are many examples. But the source of this machlokes is lodur bebayis sheyesh bo mezuzah. So our minig is you really don't put on the mezuzah till you actually move into the house. And one should not put on a mezuzah until he moves into the house. On the other hand, you shouldn't live in a house even a short while without the mezuzah. And therefore, when you finally move into a new home, the first thing you do is put on the mezuzah and say a bracha. You don't put on the mezuzah before you move into the house because you don't have a chiyuv. That would be a bracha of aton. But on the other hand, we do not accept the psak of the Magen Avraham that you could put on the mezuzah earlier, and then when you move into the house, you say lodur bebayis sheyesh bo mezuzah, because lodur bebayis sheyesh bo mezuzah is not a Maisa mitzvah, and you only say a bracha if actually you do have a Maisa mitzvah, and when the mitzvah is not miskayim al yedei Maisa, you don't say a bracha. So that's a fascinating question. Rabbi Kiva Ege, Sav Simen Tes in the Chuvas, and Magen Avraham is in the New Tes. So this Magen Avraham is actually not in Hilchas Mezuzah. There is no Magen Avraham in Hilchas Mezuzah, because you probably all know that Hilchas Mezuzah is in Yerodei and not in Orach Chaim. But lo zechinu leMagen Avraham b'Yerodei. Sav Simen New Tes is Hilchas Tzitzis, and that is where the Magen Avraham discusses this big chiddush.
Why would Rabbi take the Birkei Yosef as an authority against the Magen Avraham? Isn't that interesting?
That's a very good question. The Birchas Yosef was a Sephardi, and he was almost a ben doido, almost a contemporary of Rabbi Kiva Ege. But I strongly feel that he's right. I have many rayas that there is no Birchas mitzvah, only by Maisa mitzvah. And this goes back to the Birchas Yosef we discussed a few weeks ago regarding Birchas Torah. Hamaharer b'divrei Torah einoi mevorech. And why not? You probably remember, the Gra says, if you maharer b'divrei Torah, that's a mitzvah. Lo yom sefer Torah zeh mepicho, v'hogiso b'yom v'laylo. How do we define v'hogiso? Yira rotzin imrei pi v'hegyon libi. So, thinking, learning, hirur, machshavas the Torah is a mitzvah. So why don't you say a bracha? So I say that Birchas Yosef maintains it's not a Maisa. It's a mitzvah, but it's not a Maisa. And therefore, there is no bracha. So true, the Birchas Yosef deals with Birchas Torah. It's not exactly Birchas mitzvah, but this rule is the same. Birchas Torah, Birchas mitzvah, you never say a bracha only when there's a Maisa. And it's obvious what is this person doing that necessitates this bracha. So this is, that's why I said it's an interesting phenomena that Rabbi Kiva Ege is not machriya, but it's obvious that Rabbi Kiva Ege says that, yes. And it's interesting that Rabbi Kiva Ege would pass in accordance to the Birchas Yosef and not accordance to the because usually the Magen Avraham reigns supreme, and Bnei Ashkenaz always paskin in accordance to the Magen Avraham.